Have you ever thought about how fit you need to be to do something like adventure biking? Well, my next guest has. In fact, he trains people for that exact thing, adventure rider strength and conditioning coach. Ben Knott, good morning.
Morning, Sarah. How are you going?
I'm good. How fit do you need to be to ride a bike?
So how fit you need to be is a fairly loaded question, but it can vary depending on the individual's needs. It can vary almost as much as an adventure might vary. So if you're the kind of person who goes out for adventure on a Saturday morning and you just take roads and you do that kind of thing, potentially not super fit, but you may find things like stretching will help you as far as riding goes. However, if you're more into things a little bit more extreme and you want to go out to the Glasshouse Mountains that we've got here, or if you want to go even further than that and you want to race and rally and go around the world or go around on big world trips, it's pretty important to be physically capable.
Now, I don't ride, but I have ridden before. And I remember being a teenager riding for the first time and the bike fell over. It's very hard to get back up again. How heavy are these bikes?
So the bike I run at the moment would be one of the heavier ranging bikes generally used for long touring. I also have smaller bikes, but it weighs up to about 245 kilos, just the bike with fuel. So
Right.
quite heavy.
Hence, strength, pretty important.
Yes, absolutely. And that would have been my starting point for strength, but there's actually a much larger scope of strength and physicality that you need for adventure riding specifically that can help.
Okay, how come?
Generally, if I wanted to break it down to sort of your normal adventure rider, my consideration would be the fact that I don't want to be the last in the pack and I don't want to be huffing and puffing. And then if people are dropping their bikes or I'm dropping my own bike, I wouldn't want to be the person who is struggling to get that up. It's also a safety thing, to be honest. So if you're not as physically capable as you might need to be, you have to understand that adventure riding takes you off the beaten path and you may get into a situation where you may need to hike out or you may need to, I'm not sure, move a long distance, and you just need to be a little bit physically capable to do that. Like I said, it's going to vary on the kind of adventure that you want to go out and do. But, as you may have seen, you may get a bit unstuck without even intending to get to that point. So it's worth being somewhat physically capable, and then as the adventure changes or as your scope changes for adventure, then you look more into higher level strength and conditioning.
Okay, so what sort of muscles, what sort of things do we need to be doing to build up our strength and conditioning for this?
So when we talk specifically about lifting the bike, because that's very much what most people's minds go to with adventure riding because of the weight, it's what's called our posterior chain. So that's all the muscles that go from our calves, or our back muscles. All the muscles go calves, hamstrings, glutes, so your bum muscles, your lower back, and your upper back. The best exercise for that, I would say, would be a deadlift. We won't go into the technical parts of that now because we obviously don't have the time. But if you just go on YouTube, that's going to show you what a deadlift is, basically. Important to note with that, though, it is probably beneficial to get an expert just to show you how to do it because it can load up your lower back if done incorrectly. Going back to your question, though, yes, posterior chain muscles are those back muscles that help you fully extend and stand upright to pick that bike up.
Right, okay. This is a really interesting thing that honestly I would have never thought about. How did you get into strength and conditioning for adventure riding?
So a fairly long story to cut quite short. So essentially, I just remember from when I was as young as I possibly could be getting on the back of my dad's bike and him even sort of belting me to his back. And I think a lot of people have that story who started off riding. And it just stayed with me. And then as soon as I could ride, I bought an adventure bike. And I was riding sort of off-road a little bit before that, but mostly once I'd bought that adventure bike when I was, I think, 16 and 9 months when we were allowed to do that at that point, I was off. And that was it. It was just exploring from there. Then I moved on to other careers, and those other careers took me into strength and conditioning. And then through this last COVID period, everything's become like online, and I really tried to focus my business to an online market, and most of my demographic are overseas.
Okay.
We do have a lot of adventure riders around here in Sunshine Coast, but the market isn't understood as well as, say, in America or South America or New Zealand. But yeah, it's really good to be able to open the floor and talk to people about this in this area as well.
Yeah. Why do you think that conversation isn't happening on the Sunshine Coast, given how many adventure bikers we have around?
I think there's a general not attitude, there's a general thought process behind motorcycling, which is totally understandable, especially in a country where we can ride almost 365 days of the year, that to get better at motorcycling, you need to ride. Absolutely valid point. However, we don't ride all the time. So why not spend some time getting a little bit fitter in the gym or outside or whatever you want to do to get better at what you love, which is riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Knott joining us this morning on ABC Sunshine Coast. So if people are listening to this going, oh, adventure riding, I've always kind of wanted to do that. How can they best get prepared and get ready to give it a try?
So a couple of ways. If you're going to go about the process yourself, you can, I guess, even jump on my Instagram page, and there's a whole load of just exercises that you'd be capable of doing there and workouts, which is just Moto Strength Coach, or my webpage, or just following a general full body fitness program would benefit you adventure riding. And then as you go down the path, you can just look up people who specialize in that. The funny thing about that really is in the world and adventure biking, I'm the only one who started this so far. So
wow.
When I looked out to whether this would be viable or not, all I could find was small physio articles in motorbike magazines and stuff, not specialist people who specialize in that work. It's important to sort of note, though, that I'm not an adventure rider trainer. I'm an adventure as a physical capacity coach, whereas there is Training Adventure Co. on the Sunshine Coast, and they specialize in training you to ride. So I think both of those skills are interlinked.
Yeah.
And it's more about confidence than anything else. So just developing your confidence when you go out there in both ways is going to make you a much more capable adventure rider and allow you to come home safely.
And physical fitness really important.
Yes.
How good is adventure biking for your mental health?
That's a very good question. So I would say, apart from what I mentioned before, adventure riding is for my mental health.
Yep.
100%. So getting out in nature and experiencing it to its full. So I also four-wheel drive, and I like an adventure bike specifically as opposed to motocross bikes to four-wheel driving, because they're sort of taking off in the market where you would have seen sedans 10 years ago everywhere. Now it's all four-wheel drives because in southeast Queensland we just have this beautiful landscape to explore. So everyone wants to do it. The beauty of adventure biking is you get to experience it, and I feel like that novel experience is so good for your mental health.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, learning a lot this morning, Ben. Thank you so much for coming
in. You're welcome, Sarah. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Ben Knott from Moto Strength Coach. If you want to find out more, head to his socials. You're on ABC Sunshine Coast. Sarah Howells with you. We're going to go for a roam around the region.